I mean, it really made me realize that I don't know, it might have been one of the first times I really felt like someone got through some of that armor.
The heart armor.
Yeah.
Disclaimer. This channel is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional therapy, counseling, or medical advice. The content shared here does not constitute or replace therapeutic services. Please consult a licensed mental health professional for personal support.
Hi, I'm Katie.
And I'm Diane.
Almost 20 years ago, we met in rehab.
And we've been besties ever since.
We've both worked hard at healing our addictions.
And gone on to build meaningful lives.
I am a licensed therapist and yoga instructor.
And I'm an embodiment coach and tantra healer.
We believe connection and authenticity are the antidote to an increasingly polarized world.
We're here to support you through your most difficult relational challenges with warmth, insight, and humor.
And remind you, you're never alone.
Because we can relate.
Hey everyone, welcome back to part 2 of Working with Your Triggers.
We hope you enjoy.
Another way to know if you are triggered is if suddenly spike in urges to engage in addictive behaviors, escapism, and it can be things as extreme as eating disorder urges, drinking, drugs, etc. Or if suddenly you want to put about $1,200 on your Sephora card, it can be things like impulse binge shopping.
Or if you want to go get 4 chocolate cupcakes from Susie Q's and have them for dinner, you might have something going on inside of you. I don't know who I would be talking about.
Paying attention to the escapism.
Yes.
I know for me, there were 2 ways that the addiction behavior or urges would really spike, and I'd be in a situation where I didn't have the capacity yet to respond, meaning say what I needed to say, take care of the felt danger in my body that was saying I'm triggered and want out of here.
Out of where?
Out of the situations. Which I'll get to. But 2 particular scenarios when I was really activated and not in a place where I could respond to that by taking care of the need that my body was letting me know of. It wouldn't have gone well to react in these situations, which I'll get to. And so I started negotiating with the addict in me. And the first one is just the overall emotion of anger. That was
big trigger for people.
Big trigger, and a big trigger for me because it wasn't modeled in my household growing up at all. And so the message I got was anger is not an emotion that is welcome or to exist even in the human spectrum. So reject, repress, which we'll talk more about. But so if I got really hot in the body, furious, angry, level from 0 to 12.
That must have been terrifying in a certain way. It must have scared you.
It was scary, and because it was so scary and felt so dangerous. And the good girl in me, or the learned behavior, the learned conditioning was no matter what you're feeling, everything is fine. Wear the glass veneer. Inwardly,
I would feel that.
Like everything, think Stepford Wives.
Yes, that's what it felt like, robot.
I feel like I grew up like in an emotional vacuum, but like pod people, like where are you? When I was younger, the rage the way it came out is I would express it, I would react and be like, where are you?
Yes.
I wanted that mirror with me.
Yes.
Teach me, I was desperate, teach me to feel safe.
And also interesting, I just thought of like how much you wanted that, but you're wanting it from people who couldn't give it because they weren't in touch with it themselves. So it's like, then it feels like the feelings can't go anywhere. So then that becomes a symbol for bulimia in a way, right? Like the feelings can't go anywhere, so I have to eat them and purge them out. Right,
because, the first law of physics, energy is neither created nor destroyed. And so that vibrational rage, the anger, the emotional vibration, the energy of it got shifted into the eating disorder or like the purging. And so, because it had to go somewhere. And I just realized this connection just happened when I was younger, before I learned how to do the veneer and the mask and just disconnect. I was trying to get through with my outbursts, to get the modeling of teach me to be safe. My primary caregivers, please teach me to be safe with these big emotions, because that's how we learn to do this.
Yes.
So developmentally, it's just fascinating.
It is. Yeah.
So in the rage that I knew I can't react towards my boss and keep my job. And the other one was when I dabbled in sex work. There were two people I saw for a long period of time. And at the time, I didn't have confidence that I could support myself in other ways. It was a good enough amount that I believed it was beyond me to make. But it was really hard emotionally, because it was out of integrity with my values.
Yes.
And most of the time, I talked about in the dissociation episode, but I would actively take myself out of the situation with dissociation. Sometimes I couldn't. And so my body the body wisdom would be activated. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be doing this. And
this
the bypasser,
is a no.
This is a no. But the pillager, the bypasser, the depression in me was like, don't be stupid, make your money. I don't care what you feel from the neck down emotionally, And so what I did for both with the anger that I couldn't react to or respond to, and also I didn't want to lose my job, and so I couldn't react to the anger in that situation either. So the response, or the way I got through, was, because I couldn't get into dissociation and disconnect completely, is I would say, just get through this, bear the physical whatnot, the suffering, and later you can binge your face off. Have whatever you want. You can spend $100+ on the food, with both the anger that was not allowed and also the body no sexually, actually, which I just thought of the connection there.
What's the connection there?
Just that one of my biggest triggers that I talked about too is feeling like my boundaries are being crossed sexually. So the anger at that is a trigger, plus feeling like that's all I'm good for. So it's almost this double.
And crossing your own boundaries, right? That was you crossing your own boundaries. So it would also make you extra sensitive to that externally, if you have an external person or force coming to cross your boundary, because you already have an internal, or you had an internal boundary crosser that needed to be healed
and heard. You know what? Thank you for sharing that. This is analysis happening in real time. Fascinating, because I felt unable to I didn't have the capacity to walk away from something I knew was harming me, meaning these two sex work connections. And what I finally did was, when I went from only being able to notice that I had these triggers, or that they were there in the body, to being able to work with them, that choice, when I realized I was actually furious with myself for not speaking up when angry, for not saying I don't want to be here, for not getting up and taking myself to it, and for not feeling strong enough to get a different job where I could cover my overhead. All of these things.
That's a hard day.
I mean, really. Remember when I called you from New York?
Yes.
I went to New York. Yes. And got the hotel room on my dime, and then the flight wasn't going to get reimbursed. And in the final 15 minutes, I said, I can't do this anymore.
That's right.
And I called you, and I was bawling.
Yeah.
I said that, to me, symbolically, I said, I chose me symbolically. I just said I'm priceless, and I am. And I remember you crying and being like, please don't do this to yourself anymore, to my friends.
Yes.
I have that video still.
Oh.
Yeah. But when realizing I was so angry at betraying myself, violating myself, and actually taking it even further, I was sexually assaulting myself. And as somebody who's been through sexual assault and rapes, I was actually trying to grasp control over that for a price and justify. I mean, I was like, I can't do this. There comes a point for me where, if not now, when, and I can't.
Well, you woke up. You woke up to your soul's calling. And I was actually relating to what you were saying, in the sense of, it's a hard day when you realize it's you. That's
an episode topic.
Well, yeah, and I was realizing, what I had put on you about I was been being mad at Diane and carrying this really negative energy around, and she could
Kinda
feel it.
Outsized.
I could feel it. I knew she could feel it. I didn't know what to do with it. And it took a lot of going, oh, this is here, and I'm projecting this onto her because I'm so mad at myself for not being able to speak up about things for so long. And now I don't know how to do it. And I'm still terrified. This is my people-pleasing part, pathological, accommodating part. And yes, I've done work on it. And to see how bad it actually is in me is...
How deep it runs.
All
the way to the core.
All the way to the core is deeply disturbing. It is deeply humbling. And it is so painful because it's like recognizing a part of myself I sort of knew was there, but I wanted to put it on other people.
Yeah, because it's too painful.
Yeah, it's easier to just be mad at her. You just need to do this and this and be controlling or be whatever, than actually go, Katie, you need to be responsible for letting her know your limits and what you need. And it blows my mind. But you know what?
That was this week.
That was this week. So this is a current thing, but also I'm so grateful because since that time, everything has changed.
Yeah.
Like energetically it's changed. My awareness has changed. Now I have some sense of control. So thank God I knew I was being triggered and I decided to face my soul.
Ooh. Decided to face my soul. And beautifully, you had the ability, the capacity to face your soul because you've known this about yourself for a long, had a low grade concept, but it went somehow deeper this week, and you took full accountability. I had to cry about it in my own session a bit of just how much it meant to me for you to apologize and say I'm really sorry. With presence, and I was like, I don't think I can think of maybe one other time as you started to come to this realization a couple months ago. You said, I'm sorry, and I'm going to do better at this. And just that, and then the depth of where you went with it this week, touched me so much because I love my friend and you are not your trauma or your triggers. I said this to her as we processed it. Because it was really hard for you. Humbling, painful.
It was so hard. And I think the thing and this is where if you have love for somebody, it helps you look at the parts of yourself you don't like so much, because we all have those parts, and recognizing she should not have to be around this energy. And even if it's my trauma, it's like, that wasn't fair to you. And I was so unhappy with myself, but that unhappiness is what caused me to change. Right? That unhappiness is point. That's right.
That you hit the threshold, the breaking point into the new level of growth. Because it launched you, the pain launched you, the growing pains launched you into being able to be more integrated. This is a part of me. I'm going to name it and claim it. The ability to be humble and apologize, and how much that meant to me relationally, because low grade what had been going on was the part of me that feels like carries from childhood stuff of you're annoying, nobody cares, you're too much. And so when I could feel it and sense it, I'd go into, I'm annoying and I'm someone to be tolerated versus celebrated, which is something I've continually had to work on. Even my best friend has to tolerate me sometimes. And that's a really painful thing. And, that doesn't...
so sorry.
Oh, I know.
It's and the irony is how I would tell myself, the pathological accommodating part of me would tell myself, don't say anything because it's too terrifying, or don't say anything because it's going to repress, because it's going to trigger her shame, which is the last thing I want to do. So instead, I'll just be super angry and bottle everything up and then project it onto her that she's going to feel anyway. It's going to trigger her shame anyway. Because that energy
has to go somewhere. And I can feel the vibration of the energy.
I mean, I knew you could feel it. I could feel it. And it was like an angry, cruel energy. And it's awful. And it was like, I finally made that connection of speaking up is better. And it seems so simple, but these things are so hard to do.
Well, and again, it's the outsizing of that piece you could identify that how you were feeling reactively was outsized to the moment, but unable, struggling to contain it.
That's right.
Versus move it through in a regulated way until you could. And it was so sweet because we were prepping this episode a couple days later, and at the end, you were beautiful in your soft, and like just we worked together very harmoniously. And you said at the end, before I was getting ready to go, you said, "Hey," you looked at me and said, "How did you feel today went? Like, I really want to do better at this. Did you feel I was loving and soft?" Because we're best friends, because I love your squish heart that we actually really have in common.
It's in there, but just sometimes I don't show it.
Yeah. And so being able to say, "Oh, thank you. Yeah, I did feel you were really loving and softer today." And I also don't expect this to be perfect, because now that you've communicated what your triggers are, I'm able to be like, "Hey, she's working on this. I don't expect perfection. Good job, actually. Progress." And sometimes, I might get triggered again because we're building muscle here.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah, and I mean, that's why I think the example we gave you all from earlier is so profoundly meaningful for us when I walked over and just said, like, "Hey, what's going on?" Because that was me speaking up, whereas in the past, I would have held it in. I would have been annoyed because I'm like,
curt.
We've already talked about whatever that...
We've gone over this.
Yeah, whatever it wanted to tell me, and also, and she's still doing it, so she doesn't listen to you, It would be a whole thing that I would be trapped by. I would turn cold to her, and my heart armor would go up.
Hijack.
And instead of doing that, though I was terrified out of my own trauma, I went to her eye to eye, and I said in a gentle way, "Hey, what's going on here?"
Yeah.
That type of thing, if you guys can learn these small things, it will change your life.
That are massive.
They're massive. So
massive. And I got to say to you, because there was a moment where she was in the pain and the humility, the of coming into awareness of just how deep it runs.
God. Well, I got drunk that night, and I called her. I got drunk, and I called her like, "You don't deserve this, and I don't deserve you, and I'm so sorry." And like,
what was my response?
Oh my God. These are the most loving. I saved the voicemails because they were the most loving voicemails. And like, you received me. And, honestly, talk about a big heart. That's one thing Diane has probably over almost anyone I've ever met, is like such a big heart, and your capacity to forgive and to
see the best and to see
what's really there in me. It was like that you could see past my trauma, and that you were willing to receive me, and that it also, you felt like there was a space for me, and that's been a trigger, like she can receive this and it's okay. And I was so scared. I was like, I don't know if you even want to work on the show. I could understand. And all this stuff came out, but yeah, that response you had was so impactful.
Well,
I mean, it really made me realize that I don't know, it might have been one of the first times I really felt like someone got through some of that armor.
The heart armor.
Yeah. Yeah. And not that no one's ever gotten through, but gotten through it in a different way somehow.
This is so neat.
I know.
Let me grab a tissue.
I know.
You need one, my friend.
I almost I almost wonder if there's a way to share any of those. Maybe not my drunk voice.
The audio.
But
no,
maybe.
You just owned it. I mean, it was really actually very endearing. But yeah, that would be really sweet, because this is the healing that happens. And I was able to say to you, one of the things you said is, I'm afraid to bring this in because what if Diane goes into hysteria, my own trigger of shame spiraling and being hijacked by that. But because I've been doing my individual work, there was a time a while ago, we spoke into this, and I was able to say, I don't want you to be afraid to not speak the truth to me with love, because I'm in a place now where I really have been working on this. Don't over-identify, and I'm not the same dysregulated person. I really feel like I can hold space and respond more without being like, I'm the worst negative auto response of, and then we're having separativity.
Yeah.
And I said to you in that message, I believe, maybe paraphrasing, but the other night was, I love you so much and I'm so proud of you. I hear your shame. I don't want you to go diving down into a spiral, but I'm so proud of you for facing this now because you weren't ready before.
It wasn't.
And that was okay, but I've known for a long time, I've seen your heart armor because sometimes a lot of times I see the squish and the love and we get along so well. You're so amazing. You're the best soul sister, best friend ever. And I've known your heart armor since I've known you. And I said, wouldn't it be a beautiful thing if in our friendship this was a safe place to start setting down some of that heart armor that no longer serves you in terms of protecting you, and how deep that'll take our friendship, and then as able the other relationships in your life. And that is how this work takes things so much further. You've been doing your work, you are doing your work, and then together being able to...
Well, I was going to just add on to that this couldn't have happened if we both hadn't been doing our work. Like, it's not a one-way thing. Like, her doing her work and me doing mine separately, yes, we come together, but I don't think it can't really happen if only one person is doing it.
Well, if one person stays the same,
or stays being triggered. Like, if I didn't feel safe to tell her things, if I thought she was going to be like, no, I would probably have felt too scared. But
you wouldn't feel safe.
Yeah, but you do create a safe space for me now, and it's
vice versa.
And we're working on that. So
we're continually working on it, despite the triggers still coming up in much less hijacking ways. And I'm just so proud. This is where we do our own work from, again, those bands, the center band. We work on ourselves, and then it ripples out. And this is the deepest, closest we've ever been. So what a gift to be able to work on ourselves and then be the beloveds, the loved ones, the friends, the in relationship with others in a way that helps them dismantle that heart armor, and vice versa. So we can have the relationships and relatedness and connection we all long for most.
I mean, it's so true. And even the word heart armor, I resisted. And I don't know if it was Katie resisting it or my ice queen part, but it's like heart armor, grumble.
Armor.
I'm cynical, grumble. Yeah, armor. And it's just, we all want intimacy. And yet, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, most of us have features in the psychic structure of narcissistic wounds and bipolar wounds, or borderline wounds. And borderline, not bipolar. And what that means is, like, the narcissistic wound is, of course, not being seen and things like that. Doesn't mean you have NPD. And the
narcissistic personality disorder.
Thank you. And the borderline wound is sort of I love you, I hate you. But we all have features of that because we want intimacy, but it's terrifying at the same time. So we also push it away. And most of us are not conscious, and I wasn't, about how I was pushing it away. And once you become conscious of that, it's like you actually have the power now to have more of what you want. But it's hard work, because moving closer for anyone who's had trauma is fucking terrifying.
So if you're hearing all of this and going, my primary caregivers did not teach me or model for me that it's safe to be in connection with others, or safe to be in a connection with myself, trust my own self-perception of things. Oh no, am I doomed? Am I relegated to toxic or chaotic relationships, or being triggered by my connections always because I don't feel safe?
Yeah. Is my brain sort of out to get me?
Yeah. Am I broken? Am I broken? The answer is no. You absolutely are not. I can absolutely also relate to this. I really thought for the longest time I was so driven by my emotional reactivity, my triggers by others, my distrust for others, that I used to describe it that I would get emotionally hijacked in ways that felt like being dragged across broken glass by my nostrils. That's how out of control I felt with how big the feelings and the triggers were. And for context, talk about primary caregivers, my birth mother, I'm adopted, my birth mother gave me water my first 3 weeks of life. So basic needs, safety, trust of maternal connection.
Oh my gosh, didn't happen. No.
And then other things that weren't received. So what's happening here in the brain? And this is where I kind of geek out and get really excited. Granted, not a scientist, but bear with me, and I'm going to trust Katie. Like, if you hear anything or get lost, let me slow down and explain.
Okay.
So what's actually happening here? Why are you not broken? And what's possible for rewiring of the brain? So what happens, in our brains, we've got what's called the amygdala. The amygdala is at the center. It's what is wired for, I need to meet my basic functional needs. Food, shelter, sleep, running from threats such as the saber-toothed tiger's coming, these sort of things. I call it the lizard brain. I don't know if I just said that, but yeah, the lizard brain, reptilian stuff. Then in the front of our minds, we have what's called the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is what's responsible for emotional regulation, our emotional responses to things, our ability to logic, ground, contextualize things. So hopefully our primary caregivers then model for us in early adolescence, childhood, that connection is safe, we can trust ourselves and individuate from our caregivers as we grow, we can trust connection with others, we're safe because we know how to hold on to and trust ourselves and our own perceptions. And that develops a strong prefrontal cortex, which becomes a muscle that when triggers are human. We're going to get triggered by things. We're going to get wounded by connections. But that hopefully we have enough of a foundation that the prefrontal cortex can override the amygdala's panic response of, and it's strong enough to be like, you are safe.
Yes, and if you have built that muscle since childhood, you have that muscle. But when you haven't built it, it can mean you're a more reactive person, or you get, as you like to say, hijacked, or I would say taken over by a complex more easily.
Right. So what that means is at the fundamental foundational level is a hyperactive amygdala threat response was developed if we weren't taught these things and given that foundation of the world is safe, I'm safe within the world, connections are safe, etc. We're more likely to respond to I'm not okay. So that muscle of the prefrontal cortex is not stronger. The amygdala response is the stronger one that's driving the bus or dragging by the nostrils, as I used to say. What's wonderful though, and why you aren't broken, we all have the fundamental biological ability to heal, cognitive ability to heal, and that's something called neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity is the ability to do, as we'll get into tips and tools, but to do things like mindfulness activities, working with a therapist or healer or coach, somebody that can start in adulthood modeling healthy connection. It's safe to connect. You can trust yourselves. We can begin to rewire and build muscle of the prefrontal cortex so that it becomes strong enough to override that panic response, and we become less reactive, more able to handle our triggers in a regulated way so we are not taken over, hijacked, possessed by them. Which part of why I geek out on this and I'm so excited that I'm getting literal chills is because that news and then lived experience in myself of, oh my gosh, I'm capable, I'm competent, and I'm not stuck. There's something to be done. I'm not exempt from healing these things, and neither are you, anyone out there. So
yeah, I love that. And I love this idea that it's like a muscle. So you can build that muscle that will help regulate an overactive muscle, right? And so all that needs to be done is the work.
Yeah.
You choosing to say, I'm going to work on this, and the brain will literally catch up.
Yep, so, in a lasting way. This can be rewired truly, scientifically. The rewiring can happen by learning new coping strategies, starting to meet these things. And granted, just like going to the gym, we don't go and start squatting the most stacks on the rack. It's gradually, because it all depends on beginning where we are and building as able and as feel safe, and hopefully, not just with therapy, coaches, healing experiences, etc., self-help books, but also in our primary connections and relationships, co-healing through. I know Katie and I's friendship has been immensely healing. As I've gotten healthier, I've drawn in healthier partnerships. Those have continued to be co-healing, and it's a really beautiful, beautiful thing. And so what a gift that I can honestly say I don't relate anymore to the woman or the wounded girl I was for years that really felt broken and out of control emotionally, inner chaos, a storm, couldn't trust my reactivity, shame around it. Now I identify as somebody who's very regulated and able to stay in connected relationship because I feel safe within myself and safe to trust my perception of the world and able to stay in that connection because that safety's there.
Yeah, and I love that piece about safety, because a lot of my patients will come in and talk about like not feeling safe in the world or not feeling safe in relationships. And certainly I've not felt safe in relationships or the world. But as you do the work, the inner work to have more strength, have more trust in your relationships, it's you come to find over time that it's actually not about the world and it's not about the person. It's about, because the world is going to do what the world's going to do. Another human will do what another human's going to do. They're not going to be perfect. They're going to let you down. So the safety is, do I trust myself? Am I safe within myself to go on a date, to take care of myself in certain ways, or to engage with the world in a way that I know I've got my own back, which is not to say we don't need other people. Of course we do, but really developing that inner safety.
Yeah, I've got this, I've got myself, and it's this idea that everything is a mirror. It's not a mirror, meaning highlighting, if we're triggered, it's data about what is still unresolved within ourselves.
That's right.
There's a quote that I really like. In fact, I think when we were checking it out, this you had found this one, if I believe. If you want to share, I really like it. I don't know
that one. No, go for it. You can share that one.
Yeah, really love this. James Hollis, we really like your stuff. It's a quote: "The emotional charge in our reaction tells us something unfinished within us has been touched." One more time. The emotional charge in our reaction tells us something unfinished within us has been touched. Because if it was finished, if it felt complete, it wouldn't have the vibrational charge, that reactivity in that amygdala.
It's like, and it is a very simple way to test this with yourself, is like if someone gives you a negative comment, like sometimes on our YouTube, we've had people say all sorts of things, but one guy was like, well, said something like, okay, listen to the thing, but do you two have to look like fish?
Yeah.
And see, like, that doesn't bother me at all.
It doesn't bother me at all,
like,
but also...
Like, that doesn't bother me at all. I don't even have a new. Yeah. Like, I'm like, if I look like a fish... So I think I wrote back something like, yes, we do, or something. Like, it's like, I don't care at all if you think I look like a fish. It's okay. Like, but there are things unresolved in me, right? That if somebody said... might really hurt me. I'm trying to think what something could be, but, and I don't know off the top of my head, but definitely there are things. And so
I can think of one off the back. Yeah. Somebody I'm close to made a comment about my weight recently, and just naming and claiming. It's been a really stressful past year for me. For the first time ever, I've had no appetite, like gridlock in my stomach. I've been working with that and doing my best, but with a history of an eating disorder, my mind unfortunately, this is an example of a trigger. What was said was absolutely well-meaning and loving, but what I heard was something that wasn't well-meaning and loving because it was through the lens of the trigger of my eating disorder.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, and it was like...
It's a good example.
Yeah, and it was triggered, and it was like, because that's something that's still, there's shadows of that lurk. I call it it's a lurker. And what was amazing is it actually bothered me for a week, and I kept trying to dismiss and be like, I know they meant a really loving, beautiful thing is where it came from. It came from, there's no point in mentioning it because they meant well. And then I realized the lurker was still attacking and there was still some charge and trigger and it was hurting me. And so I just brought it up and I said, you did nothing wrong. I recognize the place you were coming from is not what landed. And this is still lingering. So I'd like to educate you a bit, bring you in on the language of my eating disorder and where that comes up. And I just want to just speak into it so you know this about me, that I'm sensitive to comments about my weight. And it went really, the response was, thank you so much for telling me that. There was no defensiveness. We're now closer.
Yeah.
What a gift.
That's what a gift.
But it's data for me of, okay, that's still a tender spot.
That's right. So.
Yeah, something vulnerable too. So that, I think, brings us into the benefits of working with our triggers, a little bit of a deeper dive. Where would you like to start with that?
Well, I think one of the main things is when we make the choice, okay, I want to work with my triggers. I don't want to walk through the world just reacting here and reacting there and, road raging, or what was that guy we saw the other day that got out of his car and was about to hit this other guy, and then the other guy's in his car
shaking his cane out the window.
And he was saying I'm handicapped, he was saying.
And they were flicking each other off and screaming at each other.
It was a whole thing. If you don't want to walk through the world that way, if you want to have better control and you say, I'm going to try to work with myself, one of the benefits of working with it is you will become more self-aware. And when you have more self-awareness, you have more choice.
Yes.
When you are with yourself instead of taken over by the reaction, you can say, do I really want to get out of my car with this cane and run towards this man who's trying to defend himself with... No, I don't need to do that. Nothing happened. There wasn't an accident.
Is that the person I want to be in the world?
Exactly.
Well, and again, it's that self-awareness of ourselves of, okay, I'm vulnerable to this. What a beautiful thing to not villainize this person in my life, and also not self-attack, of being able to identify, not over-identify, but to recognize this is a vulnerability and something to work with and dialogue with.
That's right. This upsets me, and why is that?
Right.
And then when you can find out what upsets you and why, guess what? Your self-awareness, your consciousness raises.
And self-respect.
Yeah.
You
feel better. Yeah.
Who feels great? Have you ever had the experience, I certainly have many, many, many times, of doing the reactivity and then being just sort of mortified after?
God, yes. Oh my
I am
gosh.
so embarrassed.
I can't believe I did that.
Yeah, and either having an amends to make or just wanting to crawl into a hole and hide from the rest forever.
Yes.
So let's see what else. I think that our improved emotional intelligence, being able to respond thoughtfully, better closeness and connection. What a gift to hear back, wow, you've changed. I feel like I can tell you things and talk to you about things I never could before because you can receive them instead of go somewhere else into the self and that amygdala. We can't be in connection and relatedness with others if we're in our own stuff, in our triggers.
That's right.
Projecting all over each other.
Yeah, we also can't make good decisions. If we're triggered, it's not a great time to... it's just like if you get people who get drunk and then want to call their ex. It's probably not the best thing because you're not really fully yourself. So I think that piece is so important.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and also it really supports us too when we've done our own work and really dialoguing with, strengthening our own inner safety and capacity to be in the world and trust and hold on to ourselves. We're also able to receive other people's triggers more accurately for what they are, not personalize them, but also, oh wow, something's happening within you. And then how do I take care of myself? How do I protect and preserve the relationship and support the other person as needed? Of, okay, wow, there's a reactivity here, and they're not in relation. They don't have the capacity to be in relatedness with me right now because they've been taken over. So what does it look like from here? And that's a beautiful thing.
Yes, that kind of was what happened with me and the person that I'm dating the other day. Was we were both kind of taken over, but I think he was working on his trigger too. But it was this recognition of like, now is not the time to go into this too much because it's going to create something bigger. And having that downtime and that ability to be like, okay, I'm pissed off, not happy.
I'm activated.
And for him to be able to receive, which he did, my feelings, it was like, let's get this out and then we can move forward. And we were both able to do that. And I wouldn't have always been able to do that, but I've worked on this.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, when there's mutual trigger and nobody's ever able to hear each other anymore, and be in relatedness, right, not going to get anywhere, can only really go down from there. And what I've found too, I don't know if you've experienced this, but those of you out there, it can be a thing where, for me, part of learning to manage my triggers and reactivity when they felt so big and intense and they were new to me, it was new to me to try to work on them, was learning to say, I'm activated, I'm triggered, and I need a little time to self-tend because I want to meet you from a regulated place. And that in and of itself can be really triggering to people that maybe have the anxiety of, no, we need to get this out now. And they'd rather get nasty and ugly. Let's just, maybe you hear, I'd rather brawl it out and fight it out. Or
just that a lot of them feel abandoned. So the key piece
unsafe.
The key piece on that is, if you're going to take a moment, make sure you say, I'm going to come back to this, so they don't feel abandoned, but then you can go take your moment, you know?
I recognize this is hard right now, and we're going to get through it. If that feels true, okay. We'll come back and we'll be stronger for it. Right now, it's really hard.
Yeah, I love that. And I also think something you said made me think of another reason to work with your triggers. And that is, you might have touched on this already, but is that when we work with our triggers, it does help us know what our non-negotiables are. It does help us. If we get triggered enough, it can tell us, just like with anger. And if you haven't seen the anger episode, definitely watch it. But it's like, it can tell us where we're offended. It can tell us like, this, your body could be saying, this is a hard no. Now, the beauty of working with your triggers is there's a discernment, there's a differentiation. And what that is splitting the hair between what is my own stuff and I need to regulate around it, and what is my own stuff maybe, but also a value that I will not budge on.
Yes.
Because the first thing is something you can work on and take it into partnership.
Yes.
The second thing is, maybe you have your work to calm down, but I cannot accept this.
Yes, I love that. Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be so grandiose of like, this is a non-negotiable, you've offended me. It can be one of the great things about, what that excites me so much about embodiment and really getting connected to the wisdom of the body, is we can learn to identify the whispers of our gut knows. Of like, I'm thinking of a connection I started to make with a man at one point who was very serious and stoic. I'm not. And I would be playful and silly and goofy and just stone cold face.
Oh my God, what? That's so weird.
And I felt I could not get this. It was so difficult to get this person to crack a smile or laugh. And he would say, I'm interested in you, I like you, I'm attracted to you. Like, well, on occasion, which is its own thing because words of affirmation are a love language for me. But I wanted to kind of make it work because there was some energy and it just kept coming up in my body of like, no. Hey, Di, like this one's a no. Good guy, check some other boxes on the thing, but I need somebody that can laugh with me and because what was happening is I'd started feeling self-conscious and embarrassed, like I'd be goofy and silly, and then the stone cold face of just flat. and I'd start to question myself and get insecure of, am I annoying this person? Does he even like me? Does he want to like end this date or go home? Like,
yeah, just not an energetic
constant
fit.
Questioning. And it was such a beautiful thing to be able to have a gentle conversation of, you know, we're just wired really differently, and I don't think we're a fit. It's coming up in my body. I even said it's coming up in my body as a no. And that doesn't mean you're wrong or I'm bad. We're just different, and it's not a match for me. Yeah. And I wish you the best. And it was that simple and beautiful, you know?
Yeah. So a lot of gold can come from this.
Absolutely. And I think really working with our triggers, just sort of like what you said about teaching us about our non-negotiables, that similar to that, our principles and our values. If something's really triggering injustice, lack of integrity, people who cheat or try to get away, that's very triggering for me. Why? Because I have high ethical integrity is really important. It's a very important principle of mine. I'm triggered when I'm lied to. I'm triggered the times when I lie. It doesn't feel good, because honesty is a a core value of mine. So that can tell us a lot about what really matters, which leads us to the non-negotiables when they're broached.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, just really wanting all of you out there to potentially reframe triggers are really valuable teachers for us that can help guide us towards our healing, greater self-acceptance, meaningful growth, and deepened relationships. And so with that, Katie, I'd love to hear about maybe a recent or a standout experience of how working with a trigger or triggers have been a teacher for you.
Yeah, and that's such a great thing that I really like that we're doing this, because people always ask us how. You know, like, you can talk about all this stuff, but how do I do the work? So giving these examples hopefully will be a little bit of a template. So I'll keep the example that I had used before. So my boyfriend and I were meeting to go to a game, and he was supposed to get there like early to get us a seat. And it was close to me and everything. And it turns out he was like running an hour late. So he got there and there were no seats. So I was leaving a nail appointment that was like a minute or two drive away. And I said, well, can you just pick me up then? Since there's no seats, we were going to try and find a different place to go. And he was like, I think just meet me there because, you know, it's good. I don't want to miss the game or something.
My eye starts twitching.
I was so triggered because I'm literally, and I said this to him, I said, I'm like a minute out of the way. And he's like, well, I already told you how I thought about that. And I was like, oh, bitch, no, you didn't. No.
Well, it's funny hearing about this, like, even still, the first time I heard it, my eye twitched and, like, best friend bear mode activated, triggered, like, and I love this guy. I think he's great, you know, and nobody's a villain, but steam out the nose and ears.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, no, this is not it. So I said, after he said that to me, I said, you know what, why don't you just go watch the game? I'll go home, we can meet up afterward. And that was already me working with my trigger, because I was trying to find a way not to make it worse. So I thought,
take some space.
Yeah, I'll go home, he can do that. And I said, we'll meet up later, because I didn't want it to be like, well, I'm just gonna go home. You know, like
punitive.
That would have been more if I'd stayed in the trigger.
Right.
And then he says, well, why'd I even drive out here then? And I'm like thinking like, well, it's not my fault you were late. I just felt like
also the game is like, he drove out there because you want to be a supportive partner by doing, you know, the soccer game was his thing. Yeah. And you're going to go and be there with him in it.
But it's not also, like my first choice of things to do.
So not driving out 30 minutes away for something was considerate of him, actually. Yeah. But the why did I drive out here? I twitch.
So then he says that, and then I'm triggered again because I'm like, feeling like his displaced anger. But I said, I could tell he was getting elevated and I was elevated, and I was able to recognize my inner elevation. So this is where the how comes in. And it was like, I took a few breaths and I said, okay, I will meet you there. Don't worry about it, I'll meet you there. I had my reasonings for wanting him to pick me up, but I put those aside. I said, I'll meet you there. So I meet him there. I got out of the car.
Can I ask something really quick? Quick question of, I don't expect you as just unreasonably unreasonable expectations, I'm curious, like, what were the, like, please come pick me up? One, you were close.
Yeah.
Was there anything more than that? Or?
Well, I was so close, and it didn't make sense for both of us to drive, and we were going to go have a couple drinks at this bar and watch this game, and I thought, like, you know, it's just better for somebody to have less, and I thought it could be him since I was going to the game, and it was fine.
Right.
I just
help me deal with that.
It's fine. I watched what I was drinking. It wasn't a big deal, but I felt like it was a very reasonable request.
Yeah, especially if it's a busy bar or a busy place, and why bring two cars?
Exactly.
Got it. And you're already parked?
Yeah. So it was all of these things.
One more question would be, how did you know that you had it in you? You were triggered and activated. You could tell he was activated a bit. Like bandwidth capacity was low, maybe for patients at this point. How did you know that you didn't need to go home to self-regulate? Like, and you were like, oh, I'll just go, or I'm able to go and not show up in a...
That's a great question, and the truth is, I didn't totally know. On my way there, I was thinking, I'm really upset for many reasons. For me, it felt like selfish, and I didn't understand it. I felt unconsidered. I felt unimportant. Like, not missing the first 1 minute of the game or 5 minutes of the game is more important than just picking me up.
Or 30 because it was an hour late. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. It was just, I felt really like kind of offended. But then as I'm driving there, I'm going like, in my head, I'm going, I don't want this to turn into something worse. And this is an opportunity for me to work on my trigger.
And staying in relatedness, one of your biggest triggers, as you shared, was feeling not considered.
Yes.
And it sounds like you were able to hold on to yourself enough to hold on to him too, in knowing this is somebody who generally considers you.
Yes. In general, he considers me. He's not like that, you know. And so I was trying to have some sort of grace within that.
And not get hijacked.
Yeah. And when I got there, he was waiting outside. And I did a few things right. And there's a couple of things I wish I would have done differently.
Okay.
But the thing I think I did right was I got out of the car and I said, I'm not happy with you. And he said, I'm well aware. And I told him my reasons why. And then I remembered that would have been something that I think should have come later, but I remembered to come from a place of feeling. And I said, it really hurt my feelings that you decided not to pick me up because you wanted to have the game. I was really hurt. And was there something?
I just love this because I'm seeing there's so many things right. You trusted yourself to be able to hold on to yourself and not freak out on him. You weren't punitive, didn't act out in that way. You took accountability and responsibility for your own emotional experience by saying, I'm not happy with you versus I'm not happy with you versus you. And also, there was something else that
my feelings being hurt?
Yeah, and you also you said my feelings are hurt, which is vulnerability in terms of extending a hand of an opportunity for him to meet you there. You were vulnerable, and additionally, you didn't stuff it or bypass it or pretend you were a cool, chill and it was fine and it was nothing.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow.
And
like,
so then,
check, go Katie.
And so then he's standing there as I'm saying all this, and he goes, oh, so this needs to be a fight? Does this need to be a fight? And so he's triggered.
Yeah.
And I said, no, it doesn't need to be a fight, but I needed to get all my feelings out. And then I went and gave him a big hug and gave him a kiss, and he softened right away. The thing I didn't like about myself.
Quick, I just want to point out another awesome thing you did there, which is opposite action. You leaned in and gave him a hug, even though it was maybe hard or he was prickly. Yeah. And you said, you know what, I love you, let me give you a hug, even if you're a little cactus right now.
Yeah, and it felt like that was the thing to do because he was sort of frozen. I know he doesn't ever want to hurt me. I know he had trouble like knowing where one place was and the other place, and it was just feeling overwhelming for him.
Those are big things that are all very hard to do. Yeah, I think when
you're triggered.
Yeah. Oh, you reached out to me.
Yeah, and I reached out to Diana. I just said, I'm triggered and I just need a vent, but it's fine. And then afterwards I told her, everything's fine, just needed a vent. Yeah. So lots of good things. The thing I wish I wouldn't have done is I said something like, that was so selfish or something. I said something like that because, instead of saying I feel unconsidered, I feel hurt. So I did say that too, but I would have liked to have leave the selfish part out because he is generally not selfish and it was just a moment. And we got through it. So that is how you work with your triggers. You breathe, you take time, you try to realize.
You check the facts.
I don't want to have a fight with somebody. When you're with them and they're defensive, you have to be able to see, oh, they're defensive. We're on the same team. Something happened, but I want them to know. And when I said, I'm getting all my feelings out, I said, we're going to be fine. I did say that also. I said, we're going to be fine. I just have to get all my feelings out. Yeah. And to his credit, he let me. He allowed that.
He softened.
Yeah.
Yeah. And from what I recalled, there was an apology and an amends. And how amazing that you reaching out and saying, yeah, no, this doesn't need to be a fight. It was all the ways you extended your hand in relatedness as an invitation for him to meet you there. The hug, the I statement, etc. And for him to get to be like, oh, I don't want to hurt my partner and et cetera, and diffuse within himself, it helped him soften because you invited him to do so instead of mutual finger pointing and provocation that would have extended the whole thing maybe through the whole night and ruined the day. Yeah. And okay, so maybe there's something you would have loved to have done differently, or, for those of you out there, as you're practicing building muscle, a few things. Yeah. But you did a lot right, and I think it's really important to just champion those wins along the way.
Thank you.
Love.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So what about you? What's something you've worked through?
I just love co-healing. It's so cool.
It is.
Something I'm really pleased and proud of that I've come a long way with is just the triggering from men of sexualization, feeling reduced. That's all I have to offer, and the value that I bring. And, it's interesting, possibly kind of ironic that the work I feel called to do often, really there's a lot of working with wounded men that aren't getting, as I mentioned earlier, aren't getting the relationships, the intimacy, et cetera, that they're most hungry for, the connections, that there's the wounding there, and the projection they bring onto me initially brought up so many triggers in me of feeling reduced. But taking responsibility for people don't know what they don't know, and I'm not responsible for other people's woundings and triggers, but I am responsible to ideally not further wound and trigger. And that if I'm going into my own defensiveness, particularly when I'm working with somebody, I'm not able to hold the safe container for that transmutation, the alchemization, the healing to happen. Sort of like we were saying about the rewiring, part of that, the co-healing, is in having adult connections where it is safe to maybe get it wrong or explore these things, and okay, you're still safe, all of you is welcome, and let's look at this further and work with it. And until I was able to move through my own reactivity and shutdown, heart armor shooting up, I wasn't going to be able to be in service the way I feel called to, but and also with just men in the world. But that really took doing immense work on over-identifying from only being valued or valuable or only having worth of my sexual nature, of self-objectifying.
Yeah, but both.
Yeah. And so big ones for me of my how has been doing the inner work, cultivating inner safety, and a real sense of self beyond the negative self-talk or the wiring of you're not worth seeing, hearing, listening to your inner world, or you don't have gifts that matter. I moved into adolescence and later adulthood into feeling that was where my power was, but simultaneously giving my power away again and again instead of holding on to myself. And so the inner work, working with somebody, having the healing relationships through a really wonderful analyst who's been life-changing, going deeper. This show has been such a beautiful and healing outlet for having a voice and feeling like, okay, the things that I have to share are valuable, having that reflected back externally has been validating in other ways, working with clients and getting the feedback of, wow, that thing you said really stuck with me or really helped me. So and also pursuing other passions of mine, getting back into my art, my writing, these other forms of expression, And learning that I'm also allowed to enjoy being a beautiful woman. It's more of an integration process. And so I'm trying to think of the how of a specific example. Okay, so in a session, for example, now when somebody reaches to me or turns the dynamic or the energy into a more sexualized one, I still might get the prickle of oof, and the urge might come up. The trigger is maybe comes alive in the body of am I safe? The anger or something might be there. But then being able to feel it, recognize it, identify it, and go breathe it through. This isn't actually about me and my value and my worth unless I let it be, unless I make it that, unless I give my power away. And that is not going to get us to where we want to be. That was the first piece. And so it's continuing to hold on to self. The second piece of bringing in became learning to actually speak into what is true in the moment for me.
I love that so much. Yeah.
Because, yeah. What do you love about it?
Just the idea of naming and claiming it in the room with the person that... you know, not hiding because someone's objectifying you, but being able to say like, oh, this isn't feeling good, or I don't know what you would say.
Right.
But.
Well, and the thing is too of really learning to have more compassion and empathy for myself and my own defense mechanisms, deflections from meeting the core wounds has helped me have the same for others. And so learning by being able to move out of my triggers and stay grounded and regulated from that prefrontal cortex strengthened place has allowed me to have the compassion and stay in relatedness, stay a safe place where they don't feel even the prickly, but the energy might shift a little, and then being able to kindly say, not in a shaming or reactive way, not in a pillaging and stuffing my real feelings and dissociating way, but to say, you know, I'm noticing this reaching to me in a way that has been expressed I'm not available for, and I'm wondering what that's about. Or, you know,
where else in your life do you push boundaries?
Right. And yes, and struggle.
Or where have your boundaries been pushed?
Right.
You know?
And what is difficult about staying with the deeper meeting of self in this experience and has you reaching to me in a way
of avoiding themselves.
Yeah, and that damages our ability to connect as much as we can, and that is available, and that I think could really help serve you to have the relationships and connectivity that you want. Because if I don't feel safe in this, if I'm feeling overly sexualized in this, the what will happen or what happens is my heart contracts and closes up a bit because I'm not sure if I'm safe in this, and we're not able to stay in heart relatedness, which is what called you to work with me in the first place.
Yeah.
So and because of the microcosm representing the macrocosm, it's a reflection of you know, in the therapy room, in the coaching space, it's this is showing up here because very, 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 very likely it's something that's showing up elsewhere. And so how can we meet this in a way that's different and is of service to you, so that then you can go and start practicing that elsewhere, and you can see that you can actually have your needs met in a safe way and start holding on to yourself, staying with yourself. And that
understanding what might be pushing somebody else away. You
yes,
know?
Exactly. A lot of times, right, these men there's confusion because they don't understand what they're doing wrong.
Why am I lonely? Why am I single?
Right.
I do da-da-da-da-da. Well, if you're here in this session with someone who's expressed their boundaries, you're either showing your own wounding by where you've been mishandled, or you are pillaging, and those are the things that need to actually be addressed for you to be able to move into a successful relationship on the macro.
Yes. And so let's have a kind of intimacy that is available in terms of emotional, relational, and see how that feels.
Related.
And feels right.
Yeah.
And then being able to hold space, that might be hard for them to hear, but saying so in a gentle way, in terms of speaking what's true, honoring myself, and then being like, how is that for you to receive and hear? What comes up for you there? Where are you at? And it's meeting the moment in a way that's such a bridge versus greater separativity. And that's where the healing work really happens.
It's meeting the moment as a bridge instead of greater separativity. Is that what you said? I love that.
Further separativity.
Yeah, meeting the moment. And isn't that so beautiful? I got chills when you said that. Meeting the moment as a bridge. It's like, can you meet me where I am? Because I'm here.
A bridge versus another fracture.
Yeah, and you're saying to them, I'm here, I'm present, I'm available. That's, first of all, that's scary as fuck. But if you can meet her, she's there to meet you, right? If you can meet her in that, it's a step towards literally the how of how to relate.
Yes. Let's meet this moment as a bridge versus another fracture, which only furthers that same wounding of I'm not safe to be fully expressed. And so not shaming them for having their human response of arousal or urges, etc. I welcome your full expression, that in the sense that you are who you are. It's not that you're bad for feeling these things, but how can we acknowledge them and set them aside without having to enact them in an unconscious way?
That's right. Okay, so that leads us to tips and tools. And I think the first tip that I want to offer is to simply notice your body. And that can be something as simple as, and it might sound silly, but noticing, okay, left foot is walking, right foot is walking. It's bringing that mindfulness, because a lot of people, myself, I used to be a lot more not in my body. A lot of people don't even realize they're not in their bodies. Like sometimes I will be teaching a beginner yoga class and I'll say, step your right foot forward. And half the class will step their left foot. Not because they don't know the difference between right and left, but just because they're not used to actually being embodied.
Disconnect.
Yeah. And so if you can make that relationship, notice it. It's not just something that, you're dragging along with you every day.
Right.
That will be helpful.
Yeah, this is your body temple, not your body burden, and it's filled with wisdom. And again, what I realized as you were saying that is, where does that come from? The learned sense that you can't trust your own perceptions in reality. It's not safe to notice or emote, to feel, to express. My heart is a no to that, or my gut says that's a flag.
Well, yes,
or boundary.
Exactly. We're so habituated out, some of us, of trusting the inner response, because I'm supposed to be doing this other way.
Yes.
We don't get a lot of messaging as kids often about really being in tune with ourselves.
How do you feel? What do you need? What's that like for you?
Yeah.
And celebrating that versus dismissing it is often learned.
Yes.
So, okay, learned or not. So that brings me, the thing about grounding into the body is, part of what's beautiful about that is noticing what's true and alive, what's happening now in this moment is grounding, which takes us out of that amygdala, freak out, panic, red alert.
Brain.
Yes. And brings us into, okay, recentering. Some tips on that, and it's okay if you get these out of order, but a great one would be, what are 5 things I can see right now, that I can touch, that I can hear, that I can smell, that I can taste? 5 things I can see right now, that I can touch right now. Maybe the chair, my shoulder. Okay. What can I hear? 3 things I can hear, 2 things I can smell, 1 thing I can taste. It's not about getting this right. It's about, what do my senses, what information can they give me to bring me back?
I love that.
Yep. Other sensory tips that I would suggest to help you ground would be softening your environment. If you're feeling fragile or unsafe, grabbing a really cozy, soft blanket and wrapping around like a hug. Even hugging yourself. I like hand on heart and one on my lower belly of just, I've got you. I'm here. I've got you. You are safe. Some gentle movement, some flow, a yoga class or a mindful walk, or even stretching. And maybe light some candles, put on the soothing playlist. Just I am safe. And then for those of you that are maybe vulnerable to panic attacks or are witnessing somebody in a panic attack, a really great way to shift the state immediately is to grab ice. Hold on to ice, maybe press it against the face, or if ice isn't available, the coldest cloth. I've even done it in the bathroom with a paper towel when panicking. Something about shifting the temperature so dramatically helps cool down that flush, that overstimulation, that overheating feel. Like,
it reminds me of what's the cold plunge
stuff
that it really changes your state apparently.
And I remember thinking that seems weird, and I also really have an aversion to cold, but every time I would get into a panic state of absolute freak out, it works. And for those that I've seen and witnessed, grab some ice or a really cold cloth.
I like that.
So
so coming into the senses is what brings you present. And so to take that even further, what I would say is to really try to imagine into the state or feel into it. So if you're feeling panicky or depressed, you could go inward and go, okay, what does that look like? What kind of landscape is it? Is it like a dry desert? Is it I'm being pounded with hail? Like, how does this feel? You could even ask, what color is it? What color is my energy right now? Yeah. What am I feeling? And all of those questions not only bring you present, but they also bring you into relationship with that energy. And so if I'm noticing, it's the color red, okay, it's giving me something to kind of relate to and hopefully be able to then work with in a more conscious way.
I love that. I remember somebody once asked me when I was doing this work such as that, and it was, okay, if it had closing the eyes, if it had a shape, if it had a color, and sometimes the shape was sharp and prickly and like piercing, and other times it was like sticky or like I'm an amoeba that had no boundaries because it felt, or hazy, murky, and so it gives you information about, okay, what maybe is happening here. Yes, absolutely. And so going on that,
I had one more thing I wanted to add to that, which was just that to also ask it, what would this energy say to me if it could speak right now? And then if it's a scary thing, like if it's your panic saying, you're gonna lose everything or whatever it is, it's important for you to try to engage your ego and have it say, kind of be the parent, take the parent role and say, you know what, sweetie, it's gonna be okay. I know you're scared. And so you can start to work with it that way as well.
I'm here, you are safe. Yeah. And what I love about that is, remember speaking into our hardwired needs, safety, then connection. So if you are triggered and feeling hijacked by that lizard brain, I'm not safe, it starts with feeling safe within the self. And that is sometimes called reparenting of, okay, hand on the heart, lower belly. I'm here. I've got you. I am safe to be connected with myself always. I'm here now. And for me, at first, that wasn't even true. I'm safe to be here now.
And I'm safe to be connected to myself. Like, it might be a lie at first, you know?
Well, and it was, okay, I hear you, little inner girl, like little girl inside. And I'm here now, and you don't have to trust me yet, but I'm going to keep showing up for you. I'm committed to continuing to try to do my best. And that leads to what I would invite, which is getting compassionately curious of, okay, what's happening here, and asking some questions, dialoguing for mining, tilling for gold and insight. Some questions might be, what's underneath this? Where have I felt this before? What are the facts? This person does love and care about me. Or, could I be in a story or projecting something onto here? What is my part? What isn't? How would the highest version of me handle this? And how close can I get to that?
I love that one.
Me too.
How would the highest version of me handle this? Yeah. How could I handle this and stay within my own integrity?
Yes, in a way I'll feel proud of and in my dignity and yes. And how can I take care of myself right now? What do I need right now? And for going forward. So those would be some questions. And if any of them resonate, maybe rewatch this little bit here on Tips and Tools and take some notes. So we really want to be helpful in the how. This stuff is tough.
It is tough. We know it because we walk this walk ourselves. Mm-hmm. So another tip and tool for me is to write down all the things that you already know that bug you. And they could be little pet peeves, like if someone's tag is sticking out, to like deal breaker things. But you want to write down and get acquainted with what bothers you instead of ignoring it. Because the more you know, the more you're able to go, oh, that's what's happening right now. This is the how of I'm being triggered, is you have to know what triggers you. Right? So write it down, get acquainted with it. Don't shove it in under the rug. And that's a really important one to keep track.
And that includes the pet peeves. Let's not dismiss those. It's really important. Like, it might be a little thing, but these matter. The big and the small. For me, it was really hard at first. There were only a couple I could identify as the biggies. But the more present, aware, and integrated, connected I became, the more safety I began to feel within myself to have my own back, the more I was able to notice and take seriously these little blips and things that came up of, oh, this is body wisdom, letting me know there's something here. And that matters. Your feelings, your responses, you've got your body is so intelligent. It's your body temple. It's not your body. Your body is your temple, not your burden. So really, and maybe even keep a trigger log for yourself or to bring into your sessions if you're working with somebody to help identify patterns and go deeper and looking with and working with them.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I love that. And then just piggybacking onto that is once you know your triggers is then make sure to be sharing them with the people you're closest to, just so you can know, like, hey, this is something that bugs me. Like she was talking about, I asked her to shut my car door softly because every time she'd get out, she wasn't thinking about it, and I guess my car it catches at a certain place and goes harder.
Yeah, I think it like wants to make sure the door's closed. Yeah. It's like seems like a thing, but it bugs you.
It bugs me, and I would always feel like she was just slamming, and I would be like, ugh, and I was like, okay, my poor door, and I asked her, I said, hey, this bugs me. Will you just try to be mindful about closing it? And that's, first of all, it's hard for me because it's hard for me to speak up about what I need because I always feel like, oh, you're so particular, Katie. Just let her fucking close the car door, Jesus. But it's like, but it bothers me and I have to take that seriously or else I'm going to get mad and have resentments and I don't want that with her.
Yeah.
And
it's
she's like, and she's like, you know what? That's fine. I'm happy to do that for you.
Yeah, and my experience is generally like I kind of do a little bit of a push and then let it do the close, but that comes across as a slam. I'm not a door slammer by nature, but that it was the thing. And so now what I have to do to not let go and let it do the thing is hold the handle all the way to close, which is counterintuitive, but I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Because I know that even the quote unquote little stuff to you matters to me, and also the bigger triggers. And so when people want to be safe spaces for us, they're invested in what matters. And also, especially when we can communicate them in a way that's, this would feel really supportive to me. Or, hey, would you mind? Or thank you. I noticed that you've been working on that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things we had talked about earlier that I wanted to bring in was that this is a process of differentiation that is super important, that when you know your triggers, you get to know when something is a deal breaker if you work on it enough, So some triggers are things we have to work on that we then bring and we work with people. Some are just our own work. And then there are some that are there to tell us, this is actually, I can work on it as much as I want, but it's still not, it's a no for me if this person can't change.
This is a no for me. I'm not going to, it's an acceptance and a surrender to this person is not going to be one that can meet me in a way that's going to where I feel safe to be my full self. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're a terrible person. It just means there's not alignment.
It just means that it's not a fit.
Yeah, I like that. And I would say again, in terms of, sharing known triggers, which is a vulnerable thing, but as able, these things I'm vulnerable to are hard. In terms of asking for support, being clear as possible of this is what does help and feels good to me. Maybe it's a hug or taking a walk together, or maybe we sit and we just take a breath. Oh, wow, we both seem kind of activated. Can we just slow down for a minute and breathe together? And I like to even ask, will you just look at me for a moment? I did this actually. There was an active conversation. I said, will you please just, I hear you and I want to hear you, but can we take 5 seconds and just look at each other? And like, will you look at me? And it was a vulnerable thing, but see my heart. Please, let's see each other's hearts. That's a beautiful one. Get specific about what it doesn't feel supportive. Not in a blamey way, but going into fix-it mode doesn't really feel so good. It feels kind of invalidating. So and then speaking into what does, or hey, when I'm having a meal, or just in general, food and body comments, please be tender with that. Not necessarily silence, but be aware. I'm vulnerable there. So I love that. And one I just thought of, I don't know if you have another that you'd like to share about.
No, those were
that
great.
Came through is recognizing that your reactivity is your responsibility. Your reactivity and response or not, it's our work. And so if I lose my shit and project something all over somebody, that can be damaging to relationships. And there's something really healing in making amends and taking ownership of, you know what, I didn't handle that the way I would have loved. And nobody's perfect. We still get triggered. Triggers are part of our life wiring, our life wounding. But where and as able of, you know what, I didn't feel great about that. If it's appropriate, you can't necessarily go back to the guy that cut you off and got out and started screaming,
Yeah.
And probably if it's dangerous, please don't.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're able, if it's a meaningful connection, when anybody's come to me, and vice versa, taking responsibility, it's gone a long way. So, anything else there? I think you had a quote.
Yeah, just it was a little meme or something, and it was showing the Zen master and the student, and it said, the student asked, "How will I know I'm making progress?" And the master said, "What once made you mad now makes you laugh."
I love that. Yeah. And what do you love about that quote?
I just love that it means you really have worked through whatever trigger was there that you were mad about. You've worked through it enough that it's funny to you now.
Well,
it's really worked it all the way through.
Yeah, I love that, because another benefit of this is if we get a longer fuse, maybe we just let it go altogether, and the things that used to trigger the F out of us just no longer faze us at all. And I'm thinking about how triggers are this contraction, and laughter's levity, and there's a freedom in that, and you deserve that. You deserve that in your relationships. So
yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, with that, I'd invite you, let's summarize what we've gone over in these hopefully valuable episodes.
So today we talked about, with triggers, we talked about the definition and etymology. We shared some personal stories. We shared the cons of triggers. We shared ways to know if you're being triggered, the most common triggers, and we talked about the brain and how that works. We talked about what you get from working with your triggers and the benefits, and how to work with your triggers. And we gave you some tips and tools at the end. So we really hope this was super helpful, and we hope that you'll share any of your own thoughts, opinions, comments. We love to hear it all.
Absolutely. So thanks for tuning in to another few episodes. Hopefully you found meaning and value in this. If you haven't yet, be sure to like, save, and subscribe to stay in the know, and we will see you next time. Thanks for relating again. Yeah,
thank you.